All right.
Cool. Have fun.
Welcome to Business Velocity through the Five Facets of Business podcast, where your journey to accelerated success begins. We're your hosts, Dave Newell and Hannah Pniewski, where in each episode we dive into the five facets of business through conversations with business leaders. Whether you're a startup or a seasoned business leader, understanding how to harness these facets can transform your operations and propel your growth. With our guests, we explore actionable insights and share stories of real businesses that have achieved remarkable results. Let's unlock the potential of your business together and achieve business velocity.
Nice. Do you have your external mic plugged in?
I do. Is it not? Did it sound weird?
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
No, I think it sounds fine, but maybe I should also have Chris here. I don't know. I think it sounds fine.
Let me just make sure from an audio setting perspective, like settings, just that's the one I'm using.
That's the input, yeah.
Oh, it's not. Okay. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, now I switched to the microphone.
You sound more focused now.
Okay, reduce mic background noise. Did that make anything different?
It just sounds really crisp and clean.
Well, look at that. Okay, let me do it one more time then. That way we have two takes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Welcome to Business Velocity through the Five Facets of Business podcast, where your journey to accelerated success begins. We're your hosts, Dave Newell and Hannah Pniewski, where in each episode we dive into the five facets of business through conversations with business leaders. Whether you're a startup or a seasoned business leader, understanding how to harness these facets can transform your operations and propel your growth. With our guests, we explore actionable insights and share stories of real businesses that have achieved remarkable results. Let's unlock the potential of your business together and achieve business velocity.
Great.
I got cheesy at the end there. And achieve business velocity.
No, it's funny how not cheesy it actually ends up sounding afterward. That sounds great. Shall I do the closing?
Please do.
Okay. Maybe mute yourself.
Sorry. I was moving. I was like, this lamp is randomly in the middle of this shot.
You can mute yourself. It's okay. Thank you for joining us on Business Velocity. Today's insights are just the beginning of enhancing your business's momentum. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes that help turn your potential into performance. And remember, the time is now to take these strategies, apply your learning, and achieve velocity. See you next time.
Nice.
Should I direct anyone to the website? Follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Subscribe on Spotify or Apple. Spotify, Apple.
Check out our famous Five Facets Fridays newsletter by subscribing at blah, blah, blah. All of the links will be available in the show notes.
Right. Okay. I'm going to do it again. Ready? Thank you for joining us on Business Velocity. Today's insights are just the beginning of enhancing your business's momentum. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts for more episodes that will help turn your potential into performance. You can also check out the 5 Facets of Business at evolveleadership.com. That's evolve-leadership.com. And remember, the time is now to take these strategies. I'm going to do it again.
It's evolve-consulting, not evolve-leadership.
Thought it was leadership.
I would just say theevolvedifference.com.
Oh, yeah, theevolvedifference.com.
That one's easier. Otherwise, it sounded great.
Does that redirect to our website? Oh yeah, it does. TheEvolvedDifference.com. Okay. Cool. Ready? Thank you for joining us on Business Velocity. Today's insights are just the beginning of enhancing your business's momentum. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts for more episodes that help turn your potential into performance. You can also check out the 5 Facets of Business at TheEvolvedDifference.com. And remember, the time is now to take these strategies, apply your learning, and achieve velocity. See you next time. Great. Cut, print, check on the gate, moving on. All right, so we've got the
Check on the gate, moving on.
intro, we've got the closing. Do you want to do the promo stuff or you want to do an episode? Because I don't think we have time to do both.
Let's do an episode. I think the promo stuff, I don't think we need to do in the first episode or 2 or 3 or 4. Like, I think we can find our gate, and then we can always kind of slip them in. I mean, we're not launching this until June anyways. So like, if we record it between now and June, like we get into a flow or something like that, then, once we have like 6 or 7 recorded, like we can always kind of go back in and plop it in the middle, I suppose, if we need to.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good. Well, we're rolling. So I think we should just roll into it. You see what I did there?
I saw it. I heard it. Do we want to establish some clear questions that we want to answer to start with? Like, should we create a list of 5 to 7 questions?
That sounds like a great way to make sure that we accomplish all of the outcomes in this meeting. Yes. What 5 to 7 questions would you like me to ask? Because I imagine I'm asking them, or are you asking them?
I think we could go back and forth.
All right.
I want you to feel like, I don't want this to be like Dave's podcast. Like, this is an Evolve podcast. You're Evolve.
That's my first question.
Mm-hmm. The 3 questions that popped into my mind shouldn't be surprising. Who's it for? What's it for? And why velocity?
Cool. I kind of asked that too. Do you see in the private chat?
Oh, no, I wasn't looking in the chat. What are we doing here? Yeah. All right. I like those.
Cool. Well, where do we start?
After the intro, what's a good way for us to just like get into the conversation? I don't want this. I guess like I liked reframing the conversation. I thought it was good. I think I want just like a little bit of a more formal tone than that one, where it's just a little bit more like, all right, we're kind of driving towards something. But I still think like conversational is good, but I would have less of the like we're just talking about whatever for 5 to 7 minutes at the outset, or a couple minutes at the outset. Like, I'd almost rather be like, all right, today's topic is blah, blah, blah. We're diving in with this person. Like, here we go. Just to kind of get to it would be the biggest difference. I think once we get into it, then it can be quite conversational and be totally fine.
Okay.
I guess that's my 2 cents. What do you think?
I agree with that.
Okay.
Do you want me to walk it in, or do you want to walk it in?
I don't know. Do you want to walk it in? You're good at, this is a talent of yours.
Sure, I'll walk it in. And we are rolling on the very first episode of Business Velocity podcast. with Dave and Hannah. And today we are going to introduce what we're even doing here. But first, Dave, how are you?
I'm doing well, Hannah. I'm excited to launch this podcast. This is something we've talked about probably for a year. We've been prompted to do it. We've been on other people's podcasts, had a great time doing those, and finally are taking the leap into launching our own, really with the hopes of leveraging our relationships and connections and amazing people that we're connected to and all the wisdom and knowledge that they share, and trying to create a space where we can actually curate some interesting conversations and relationships and use that to provide information and resources and ways of thinking and mindset shifts for those that want to gain velocity in their business.
I agree with that. I had a meeting this morning where I got to, reiterate this. We love helping small businesses. We love helping teams to systematize and scale and grow strategically. And now we just get to talk about how much we love doing that and offer value to people, every week. So I'm excited to do it.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things we value as a consultancy is I learn something all the time.
Yeah.
Each day, every client I engage with, something new comes up, something interesting comes up. They have knowledge, they have information, they have things that they share. I think often consultants get this, the understanding that like we have to have all the answers and we have to know everything. And I think we really approach it as like we are partnering with you on a journey to achieve something. Mm-hmm. And so it's through that partnership that we gain a lot of insights and gain a lot of knowledge. I'm really excited for the guests we have lined up already for, our next few episodes, and all the wisdom and all the knowledge and all the things we've learned from them. I'm excited for them to be able to share their stories with you all, to gain those kind of clear, tangible, deep dive into like, yeah, but tell me how you made that work, right? Like one of the things we really want to make sure we're doing here is giving access and insights that can transform the way you operate your business. And so we want to do that through meaningful questions. We want to do that through meaningful conversations with good people. And Hannah is one of those people. And
I was going to say, I think before we start talking about our guests, Dave, who are you?
Who are I? Yeah, that's a good question. So I got into the consulting world in 2012. And really, kind of fell into it aiming to create alignment. I mean, our purpose statement all the way along has been aligning the misaligned. Misalignment doesn't mean tragedy. It just means not all of our systems and behaviors and beliefs are moving in the same direction. And so we've been primarily motivated with addressing the challenges that small businesses face and small business leaders face. And what we recognize is that when leaders aren't leading well, or they're failing, or they're approaching symptoms and not systems, that the whole entire business suffers, and not only the business, but the people that are in it. And so we've really been committed to aligning leadership behaviors with systems in organizations. That's why we created the 5 Facets of Business. That's why we're creating this podcast, because we're on a mission to make sure that every business that we engage with and every business that desires that target has access to alignment. Because when things are aligned, you get to velocity. You actually achieve movement in a positive direction for your business on a consistent basis. And so for us, that has really been the target. That has been our effort for the last decade plus. And so, we do that in a myriad of ways, but that's really what we're about, why we're about it. And we're excited to bring that to you. But Hannah, who are you?
I just fell into this.
As a person, give us your, just kidding.
I just fell into this rectangle on the screen.
Yeah.
I met Dave several years ago, and to speak to your topic of alignment, I think you and I were right from the get-go very aligned. We think about people similarly, we think about systems similarly, and we think about how the two things can work together very similarly. And so, now our relationship, working together at Evolve has evolved into you focusing on leadership and strategy, and I focus on systems and process. And we also have strengths in vice versa. Like I can also get into your realm, you can also get into mine. So I think that helps a lot with the work that we do for our clients. So that is who I am, and that is what I'm here to speak to. But I also just really enjoy talking to you about this kind of stuff. So I'm excited to do this and then bring guests in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd be lying if I said I didn't just appreciate the conversation and talking about what we do. And I think it's one of the things that we get to do daily. So I'm excited to bring other folks into it. Hannah is a master at what she does. I'm blessed to have her on the team and leading huge aspects of our business. So you'll also get to gain some insights from her along the way as well.
Yeah. So Dave, tell us what are the 5 facets of business?
Yeah. So the 5 facets of business is a business operating system. And when we say system, what we mean is if you think about your business in terms of how it functions, there are kind of 5 areas that we've identified where you have a system at play. And so those 5 systems are culture, strategy, operations, story, and finance. And so we provide tools and strategies in each one of those 5 categories for designing what you want it to look like, and then implementing it to make sure that those 5 systems are working together and swimming in the same direction. We really created it out of a need that we saw where a lot of small businesses might have 2 or 3 of those categories where they feel really confident, right? Like they might have a good sales approach, they might have a good marketing system, but they can't get product out the door, they can't service their clients very well. Their operations are falling short. And so it kind of brings everything else down. And so we created the 5 facets of business to elevate all 5 major aspects of every business so that they can achieve alignment, which ultimately then leads to what we call business velocity. So just real quickly, why we call it velocity. So a lot of businesses talk about speed. They talk about going fast. Like, well, we got to get this done quickly, right? Like, or we need to move faster. And speed is really about how fast are we going. And the difference between speed and velocity is velocity becomes direction aware, not just going fast to go fast, but going fast to move from one point to another point. It measures displacement. And so we are very committed to helping the companies that we work with achieve velocity, displacement from where they are to where they want to go. And so we talk about achieving velocity as we are moving quickly. We are taking the steps that we need to take to generate movement, but that movement is intentional, that movement is targeted, and that movement is about getting to a new place and a new stance. And the businesses that don't move, the businesses that get stuck, are the businesses that we often work with, right? The stuckness of, failing to hit revenue targets, or the stuckness of, disgruntled employees, or not really hitting the targets. They're creating sales strategies and they're creating all these different things, but they're not getting the leads, or they're not achieving the results, and they're just kind of spinning their wheels, feeling like they can't get forward, right? So what we want to do is actually help them achieve that velocity by designing where we go and then creating the systems and tools necessary to achieve that dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think almost all of our clients, we meet them where, to what you were just saying, they feel stuck. They feel like they've been putting out the fires, but they haven't really been strategically planning their next steps. Just because there's just so much going on. I mean, you run a small business, there's so many hats you have to wear. There's so many decisions to be made, and no one's telling you what hats to wear, when to wear them, or what decisions to make. And so that's where we meet our clients and we help them clarify that strategy and those decisions, and then in what order to make them, and all those kind of things. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this show is really for small business leaders who are feeling that stuck feeling, right? We like to call it kind of hitting your complexity threshold. Excuse me. Hitting your complexity threshold, which means
just go ahead and take that back. Yeah.
Hitting your complexity threshold.
No, do the part like we call it, so that he doesn't have to try and cut that together.
All right. Clap. we call it hitting your complexity threshold. The reason we call it that is we've seen business leaders over time get to a certain size or get to a certain scope or get to what we call kind of just a certain level of complexity where there's a lot of different moving parts, right? Where they're trying to elevate different aspects of their business, and it gets so complex that they can no longer scale their leadership and they can no longer scale themselves into the pieces that they need to be in. And when leaders hit that place, that's often where you see the wheels start spinning and fires start showing up on a regular basis. So yes, we look at systems and we look at culture, strategy, operations, story, and finance, but we also look at leadership. And what we try to combat is what Greg McKeown calls the big dog operator mentality, which is, as leaders, are we trying to fly around, solve all the problems? Are we trying to scale ourselves? Because inherently that's unscalable. And so we want to make sure that in this podcast, we are talking to business leaders who are thinking about, how do I elevate the systems in my organization? How do I advance and grow as a leader so that the business gets better and that I get better at the same time? Because those two things have to happen in concert with each other. And if they're not, neither one gets better, right? We can't just push on one side or the other. We actually have to lean into both. And so we want to make sure that this podcast is providing both kind of that, who are you as leader? What are some of the challenges that you faced? What are some of the things you've had to step out of? What's the 20% of your effort that creates 80% of your results? And how do you get rid of the 80%? And also, what are the systems that you've put into place that have allowed your business to create the movement, to get unstuck and create that movement? So if that sounds like you, if that sounds like somebody you know, if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, then we strongly encourage you to check out our episodes, to subscribe, to stay connected. That's really what this whole thing is about. And those are the stories and the resources we want to bring to you on a regular basis.
I'm going to throw this out there.
Ooh.
What are you hoping this podcast will provide that you feel like the people that we hope to listen, you feel like they're missing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think when you lead a business or you're on a leadership team, even if you have teammates that are helping you lead that business, it can feel really lonely and it can get really insular sometimes, meaning it's all you think about. You come home from work and it's on your brain and you're thinking about the complex problem you were dealing with. You're thinking about that person who is frustrating, who's asking for a raise for the third time in a quarter, and you're just spinning. Right. And you've got that kind of spinning in your brain. And often when you look inside the organization, the answer may not be there. Sometimes it really is like, I have to actually talk to somebody, or I have to connect to resources outside the organization just to give me a fresh perspective, a new way of seeing things, a new insight. So I think insight is really the pathway to new choices and new opportunities. And if we just continue to make the same choices with the same people that we've been talking to for a long time, then we're going to continue to see the same patterns and the same difficulties and the same challenges. And so the ultimate goal for me in this podcast is to provide insight, not necessarily transformation, but just insight, right? When you have insight, now you have new choices available to you. It's like taking a personality assessment, Strengths Finder, Culture Index, Predictive Index, Enneagram, all the different things. What they do for you is nothing other than give you insight. Doesn't change who you are. It didn't change your personality. It didn't modify anything that you do. It didn't give you anything other than words, language, and a new way of understanding yourself. And now that you have the new way of understanding yourself, you have different choices available. Now you can choose to access that, or you can choose to take a left when you would normally have taken a right. And so similarly, this podcast is really intended to say, hey, here's some business leaders who have stories, who have experiences, who have things that you can learn from that can hopefully provide you an insight, so that when you go back to work tomorrow or later that day or whatever, you have the opportunity to make a different choice that'll make an impact in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing the list of people that we're about to have on for this, even just this first season, and having met them a handful of times myself, like there's so much insight that I've already gotten from them and I'm continuing to get excited about. I also think I'm cheating by being on the part of this podcast because I'm still, in this phase where I'm meeting all these people that have such valuable knowledge and are, ahead of me at work, and I love learning from them. And so I'm just so excited to sit down and talk to them and get to gain more of their magic and understanding and talent and value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always find ourselves in rooms with really smart people doing really interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a blessing. I'm so blessed, I think, to be in those spaces and to have those people as guests is going to be extra exciting. And I do think like you're such a master at creating good conversational spaces. And I think on this podcast, we really want to make it a conversation, less an interview, less of a, hey, we're going to ask you 7 questions and you're going to respond to those 7 questions and then we're going to sign off and call it a day. But I think it's going to be like, hey, we're going to ask a question or two. It's going to turn into a conversation, and then we're just going to be sharing knowledge. We're going to be sharing stories, sharing insights. And I find so much value in that exercise. I mean, that's how we network. That's how we grow as, consultants. That's how we grow in what we do. It's through conversation, through learning, through connections with people. And so excited to share that as we get going. So Hannah, what's something you really want to get out of this?
I think I've said it. I mean, insight for sure. I also love giving platforms to people who I know have a lot to say. Like I do like bringing together rooms of people, or, putting someone on a stage who I know has a really valuable story, lots of value and intelligence in their brain to share. So I like bringing all that together to then give it to other people I don't know. Like, here is someone who I think you should all listen to because they are amazing. Go listen. That makes me happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we can do that and more.
We can.
We can do that.
Well, thank you for listening to this first episode of Business Velocity Podcast. This is pretty much what you can expect. It's going to be the two of us plus some incredible guests on our show. We're going to release an episode every Monday, and we're going to, just ask really good questions and be really good listeners. So we hope that you'll join us for it. And we appreciate you tuning in for this first one. Get ready for a great season.
Here we go. As we say, let's simply leap.
Let's do it.